and dried up all the rain. So the itsy bitsy spider went up the spout again.
My Danner boots feel like bricks tied to my feet as I rush down the stairs, nitrile-covered left hand on the dusty railing. I tell myself to slow down, visions of tripping over my own feet and falling headfirst down the concrete stairs blaring in my mind. With how tired I am, there's no guarantee my left hand could stop it from happening. I'm still on edge, heart hammering from the brief altercation upstairs. I'd come through the door into the abandoned building first, shouting to announce myself as an EMT, when a figure darted out from the corner, grabbing me around the throat. At first, I thought the guy wanted to kill me, choke me, but he only gripped my neck with his dry hands and spoke a rush of words on a wave of hot, offensive breath. "Save him, you gotta save him. He's down there in the basement. Something happened, you gotta save him. Please, he's my friend." I shoved the young guy away as Barnes rushed in behind me and spoke in his soothing, "Let's all calm down" voice. I had to swallow the urge to attack the guy. I'd been feeling chippy thanks to a lack of sleep and the drugged-up assholes we constantly had to deal with. I focused on the nighttime city sounds trickling through the open doorway behind me, trying to calm down. "You got him?" I asked, scanning the dark, decrepit entryway for the stairwell door. "Yeah," Barnes said. "Give me a minute. I'll be right behind you." Now, as I rush down the stairs, the jump bag in my right hand feels about as heavy as the 350-pound car crash victim we had to load up on our last call. I'm 10 hours into a 12-hour shift, and I haven't been sleeping for shit lately, thanks to work-related nightmares. It's a bad combination. The clip light on my front pocket illuminates the dark stairwell. I kick a tall boy can out of the way. A used syringe, plastic made brittle by the march of time, crunches under my boot as I whip around on the landing and head down into the depths of this abandoned tenement. The sound of Barnes dealing with the panicking caller fades as I leave the ground floor behind, heading for the basement, where an OD awaits me. Should be easy. Narcan spray up the nose unless we're too late. Then resuscitation is the name of the game, but that rarely ends well. I step off the last riser and I'm in the basement. The sounds of the city have dulled to a staticky hum that seems loud in my ears for some reason. I reach up and adjust the body cam attached to the middle of my uniform shirt. It's a new requirement, and I'm still not used to wearing it. A narrow hallway, rust-tinged pipes running overhead, brick walls, rotting wood doors open on either side. Were these basement apartments? I wonder. Or was it storage? The upstairs looked like it had been remodeled in the 90s, but it's clear from the state of the basement that it was left untouched. This building was probably built during the turn of the 20th century, maybe even before that, and the basement reflects it. A sudden sense of déjà vu assails me, but it's stronger than any I've ever experienced. I'm certain I've been here before, not only in this place, but in this exact moment. Fear jams a fist down my throat as a scene from a recent nightmare surfaces from the depths of my subconscious. I'd forgotten about it, but now it seems strangely coincidental. I was in a basement just like this one, and I wasn't alone. There were creatures with me, lurking in the shadows. Don't be stupid, I think. You're freaking yourself out for nothing. I swallow, blink, and try to shake the feeling off. Clip light leading the way, I head down the hall, calling out once to see if I get a response. I don't. According to dispatch, the guy upstairs who called it in said his buddy was down here, second door on the right. But the man, who gave his name as Hester, also admitted that he'd taken a bunch of some new street drug called BTV. which is like LSD, psilocybin, salvia, meth, and PCP all rolled into one. For all I know, Hester's hallucinating, and there is no buddy. It wouldn't surprise me. We've dealt with a lot of these calls lately, and the way the guy was acting upstairs. If there is a buddy, his name is Rustin. According to Hester, Rustin didn't take any BTV. Instead, he did a fentanyl and coke speedball. The doors along the hallway are staggered. The first one I come to is on my left. I glance inside as I pass, making sure my OD isn't in there. My clip light throws moving shadows off the doorway, but I can see enough of the room to answer my earlier question. These were used for storage. The room is windowless and doesn't appear to have a bathroom or kitchen. I keep moving, trying to ignore the hornet's nest of fear in my gut that feels like it's getting ready to swarm. Glancing into the next room, I scan the floor for an unconscious man, but the grimy concrete only cradles trash. I don't break stride, the edge of my light sweeping into the space as my angle changes. At the edge of my peripheral vision, I see a figure standing in the corner. It takes me a beat to register the details, tall and gangly, head almost touching the ceiling, even with its shoulders hunched forward, thin body shrouded in shadows, face covered in black except for the eyes, which catch the light for a fleeting moment. My heart seems to register the danger before my head, hammering violently in my chest. I can almost feel the valves flaring with the fear response. Panic edges closer, but in a strange way. The intensifying sense of déjà vu makes me feel as though I'm watching things from outside myself. Just past the open door, I stop and whip around, aiming my light directly into the room. The corner is empty. Hello? No sound, no movement. I step to the doorway and lean into the room. Empty. Exhaling, I tell myself for the 100th time that I need to take some ambient tonight. I need sleep. Nightmares be damned. I turn to find a young man standing in the hall next to me, staring with eyes that vibrate in their sockets. Gasping, I step back. The man, a balding 20-something with a sallow face and a dirt-grimed beard, stays where he is, still staring. He stands a few inches shorter than me, and other than the face and beard, he looks healthy, decent clothes, no unwashed stench wafting from him. But what he does radiate is fear. His face is twisted in a terrified expression. His hands, held by his jean-clad legs, are formed into claws, palms out. The gesture doesn't seem threatening, more like pleading. Rustin? His eyes flick into the room and then back to me. He inches around, facing down the hall. Let's go upstairs so I can get you checked out. He stares down the hall for a moment and then breaks into a full sprint. I shout for him to wait, but he ignores me. I jog after him, bringing the brick wall at the end of the hall into view with my light. Before I can shout at him again, he runs full tilt into the wall, his face impacting first with a crack crunch, and then his chest with a meaty thud. His kneecaps hit the wall last, the noise like that of a bowling ball striking two pins. He collapses onto his back and begins convulsing, a stream of half-words spewing from his bloody mouth. Cursing, I rush over, passing another door on my right. Something glimpsed from the corner of my eye scratches at my consciousness, but I'm already past the room, focusing on Rustin, my mind going over what I'll need from my jump bag. Before I can reach him, he lurches back to his feet and slams his head into the wall. Covering the last few yards, I dig into my bag and produce a syringe of midazolam. He smashes his head into the wall again. I drop my bag and grab him around the chest before he can do it another time. I jab the syringe into his arm and depress the plunger. He whips his head back, cracking me in the left cheekbone with the crown of his skull. Gasping in pain, I let go of him and the syringe, stumbling back. My left eye goes watery, but I can still see out of my right eye just fine. The syringe, still jutting from his arm, sinks slowly into his flesh, like some unseen force is pushing it all the way into his arm. One hand to my cheek, I blink, staring as the medical implement disappears through a hole in his t-shirt sleeve. Rustin teeters around to my face. His head is a gory mess, smashed nose, teeth jutting through his lips, right eyeball sunken in a broken orbital. But he barely seems to notice. His tongue keeps working in his mouth, speaking gibberish interspersed with English that makes no sense. A portion of my half-remembered nightmare surfaces in my mind, the bloody man before me jarring the memory loose. In it, I encountered a man very much like Rustin, who had syringe needles jutting out from his body, like some grotesque version of Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies, but with needles covering his entire body. In the nightmare, he, "Ayers, you okay?" I look over my shoulder to see Barnes coming down the hall, his own jump bag in hand. I want to tell him to wait, stop, turn around, but I can't. The dark figure I saw in the room seems to be looming over me, its long-fingered hand gripping my jaw, keeping it closed. Can he see it? I wonder. Barnes's eyes widen as he grows nearer, looking at me. Then his gaze jumps past me, and he says, "Jesus, what the hell happened?" I follow his gaze, seeing that Rustin is face down on the floor, ruined head in a splash pattern of blood. As Barnes stops next to me, Rustin lurches to his feet again, impossibly fast. He sprints toward my partner, needles sprouting from his flesh, covering his body, just like in my nightmare. Barnes doesn't seem to notice. His concern is directed at me. I still can't speak, can't even move. Rustin crashes into my partner, wrapping him in a piercing hug. They both go to the floor, Barnes screaming as Rustin headbutts him repeatedly, needles piercing his flesh and punching through his eyelids, turning his face into a red ruin. The Shadow Man directs me into the room I passed earlier, and I see what caught my attention. A crack in the concrete floor glows red-orange. All along the crack, which traverses the length of the room, strange symbols have been carved into the floor. The crack widens to a hole about the size of a beach ball at the far end of the room. The hole pulses red. As soon as I see it, I remember it from my nightmare. Mental puzzle pieces click into place. That's where the Shadow Man came from. And more like him will come if I don't stop it, just like my nightmare. I know exactly what to do. I'm crouched over the hole in the floor when the shouting starts. Flashlight beams blind me as I look over my shoulder, but I recognize the two voices. They belong to a pair of police officers I've come to know during my career as a first responder. I tell them I have to finish, and I turn back to the task before me. Hands grip my shoulders and yank me violently back. "Oh God, what did you do?" one of them says. The other one retches. They put me in handcuffs. I don't understand why. 2 days later, I'm ushered out of my jail cell and into an interview room where my lawyer and 2 detectives wait. They've told me what happened, what they've pieced together, but I don't believe them, which is why I've asked to see my body cam footage myself. My lawyer advised me against it, not for any legal reason, for psychological reasons. One of the detectives asks me if I'm sure I want to see it. I tell him yes, I'm sure. I can't live with the doubt any longer. He turns the laptop toward me. I press play on the window that's pulled up. The fisheye lens catches everything just as I remember it, right up until I step foot into the basement. That's when things take a turn. I peer into the room where I first saw the Shadow Man. He's not there, of course. But when I turn away from the room, Rustin isn't standing there like I remember. Instead, he's at the end of the hall, facing the wall, swaying and muttering to himself. I hear a thump through the speakers. I know that sound. Me dropping my jump bag. Both my hands come into view, pressing against the back of Rustin's head and smashing it into the brick wall. In the interview room, I wince and look at the two blank-faced detectives across from me. Another crunch comes from the laptop. I resume watching as I beat Rustin's face into the wall. I lose my grip, and he slams his head into my cheekbone, which accounts for the bruise I now have. But I quickly regain control, and I smash his face against the wall until he collapses, leaving a smear of blood and bits of flesh on the brick. I roll him onto his chest and smash his face into the floor several times. On the screen, I move to my jump bag and reach inside, grabbing a handful of syringes and pulling their orange protective caps off. Clutching the syringes in my hand like a knife ready to stab, I start back toward Rustin. That's when I hear Barnes over the speakers, asking if I'm okay. Pausing, I turn to look at him, which I can tell by the slight movement of the body cam. Barnes comes into view a moment later, brown eyes and slender face full of concern for me. I whip the bundle of syringes up and plunge them into his cheeks, his eyes, his throat. I ride him to the floor, bat his arms away, and keep stabbing until he stops moving. Getting to my feet, I drop the syringes and step to a doorway, peering into a room with a crack along the floor, ending in a hole where it looks like a drain where large pipe once went. There's no red-orange glow, no symbols carved into the floor. Sitting in the interview room, I try to remember the nightmare I had. The one about the man with needles coming out of his face. The one that convinced me I needed to plug that hole in the floor. But I can't. I remember remembering the nightmare, but when I try to pinpoint it, to dredge up the memory of the actual nightmare, I can't. It's like it never existed. On the laptop screen, I drag Rustin and Barnes into the room and position them so their heads are in the hole. With a Maglite flashlight taken from my jump bag, I smash their skulls in, trying to fill the hole so no more shadow men can escape. That's what I'm doing when the police arrive. The footage ends. I stare at the screen for a long time, bile stinging my throat.
Did you see it?
My lawyer asks.
At the beginning?
I shrug. He drags the laptop toward him and makes some adjustments, navigating to the correct spot and then slowing the footage down. After aiming the device toward me again, he presses play. At the very edge of the screen, I see Hester lurching toward me from the shadows just inside the door. Sensing him, I turn in slow motion, the camera shifting toward the young man. My lawyer presses pause, freezing Hester just as he reaches toward my neck. Clutched in the man's right hand, barely visible, is a baggie of gray powder. BTV. That's when the stuff got on my neck. The baggie must have been open. By the time I reached the basement, it was coursing through my bloodstream. They call it break the veil. It's so new, we know little about it. What we do know is that it's incredibly potent and can be absorbed through the skin. It causes psychosis, hallucinations, and a pervasive sense of déjà vu. Taken together, it makes users feel as if they've taken a step back from reality. In my case, the lack of sleep and exhaustion combined with the exposure to make me do the things I did. Even now, it all feels so real. If not for the footage, I probably would never have believed them. I prop my elbows on the desk, head in my hands as I think about Barnes and his wife, their daughter. I wonder if Rustin had any kids. Despair floods into me like wet concrete poured down my gullet. I find I can't breathe, can't think. A keening sound escapes my pinprick throat. Tears fall to the table. The feeling that I've lived this before hits me with the force of a brick wall to the face. I feel a hand on my back. Looking over, I see the shadow man sitting next to me, smiling with needle teeth. I jerk away, thinking, I was right. It wasn't the drug. Hell is real. 2 other shadow men stand from the table. The 3 of them chase me into the corner. I scream as their mouths open, growing wider and wider as they close in on me. Their teeth are made of syringe needles. Hell is real, I think, as their teeth sink into my flesh. Hell is real.